Well, welcome everybody. Today we have Erin with us, and she serves as the president of Qnity. And Erin believes in the power of education to transform companies and individuals. And she really believes in helping them reach another level of financial wellness, and that is through Qnity. So I am sure that we're all wondering, what is Qnity and what's the background? So first, welcome, Erin.
Thank you so much. I'm so honored to be here, and our blossoming relationship is just so exciting. And I've loved, learning about what you guys do in all of your business ventures. So thank you so much for having me as a guest. And background of Qnity, right? First of all, people always ask me, first of all, everyone kind of pronounces the name wrong. It's Qnity, and really pronunciation is like unity. So that was really the essence of why Qnity was created. And I could get into the background of it, but I'll keep it more high level. And so it's really about creating unity. And as far as kind of our business units and who we serve, we really have two arms at Qnity. We have Qnity Inc., which really works with the professional division. So that's where we're working with salon owners, leaders, managers from salons, spas, med spas, barbers, you name it, on really helping them to create greater financial wellness in their own businesses and for their teams. And of course, how we get to that outcome of financial wellness doesn't always actually relate to the financials. There's a lot of things that come at play for that sector. And then most recently, which you guys are now a money school, and we're super grateful for, we launched our school arm. And so we launched that arm in last September, so about a year ago, and we're now in over 100 campuses. And that's where we really teach financial literacy to future beauty and wellness professionals. So those pursuing a career in cosmetology, aesthetic, nail, barber, massage, and really teaching them how to understand money, both from the personal as well as the business aspects, but really making sure that they leave school with a foundational understanding of finances, so they can be more successful in this craft, in this industry that we all love. So those are kind of the two arms of what we do at Qnity.
That's amazing. We're so about this well-being in the workplace. And so we, Sean, as coaches, that's what we're really training our salon owners to really, really focus on well-being in the workplace, and financial wellness is all part of this. And so can you talk to us, what is it that you're seeing is missing in the salon world with a brand new stylist, and how can salon owners help their teams set them up for success in this financial well-being sector? Like, give a little bit of advice, although I know take the program, of course. How can they sign up for your program first and foremost, right? Let's get right to that too.
That's such a great question. And so, we really like to distinguish between financial literacy and financial wellness. And financial literacy is what comes first, right? You can't have specific outcomes if you don't understand. One of the quotes, I can't even remember who this quote is by, but my business partner and father actually, who created Qnity, of course, always uses this, is that we're all ignorant on different subjects, right? And I think that's really, really true. And we're all brilliant on other subjects. And I think for whatever reason, those that are delivering a specific craft that get laser focused on a technical ability oftentimes can miss just this baseline financial literacy and understanding. So before we can actually change and become and experience greater financial outcomes, which I'll get to momentarily, we have to have understanding, which is basically just being financially literate, understanding numbers that can lead to greater outcomes, right? But just because you understand something and understand money doesn't mean you actually do the right thing. It's that whole knowing to doing piece, which I'm sure you guys as coaches, that's half the battle, right? We intuitively all know what we should be doing. We just don't necessarily do it. So starting off with financial literacy and then moving into financial wellness. And we really kind of define, and the measurements, at least on our professional program, Money Pro, that we're really trying to move the needle on are really 5 core money metrics. Number one, helping them to understand how to drive money in. Right? How do you actually make money doing your craft, right? That is a huge gap that is not just unique to this industry, right? It's anyone, again, that has a specific craft. How do they actually make money? And that really boils down to sales, right? Especially for depending on what type of preneur you are. Let's say someone is an entrepreneur working in an existing salon or an employee-based salon. They have so much potential to drive sales. That's really kind of the key KPI that they need to move to drive their money in. And they have no financial risk, which is so, so exciting as an entrepreneur, right? So number one would be money in. Number two would be money out. If you really look at it from an individual perspective, when we're working with students, it's like, oh, well, I don't have any money right now. How can I even focus on this? But as service providers and stylists actually start to make money and build an income, it's not just about what you make, it's about what you keep. And a lot of times we'll hear stylists telling their salon owners, oh, I'm not making enough money, or I'm going to make more money working solo, and a lot of things like that. But really, what might actually be happening is not an income problem, it might be a spending problem, right? And so really, that's a lot of what we see is just understanding where your money is going. And then, for salon owners, of course, looking at that from a profitability standpoint, right? That's what we look at money out for. Money borrowed. I think when we're working with students, one of the focuses is teaching them how to actually pay back their student loans. That's a huge element. But once we get out into existing professionals, debt is a very personal subject. And some people might have no debt. Some people might have a lot of debt. And so we really teach them to make sure that they can minimize or eliminate debt, right? Not all debt is bad, right? A lot of people will have debt, and most times in our life, we will all incur some sort of debt, right? But making sure it's not impacting them negatively and really impacting their money in and money out, right? Where it's going all to debt repayments. Money saved, right? I think this is something I'm so excited about because when we see many hairdressers that don't learn this early, right? It can be really, really challenging because this is a physical craft. If you don't prepare for the future, it can put people in very difficult positions, right? But if we can start them early, and it's never too late, right? But start them early with investing and saving, it is so, so transformative. So I love being able to teach and provide that knowledge in a very, very simple and approachable way. So that would be number 4. And then lastly would be credit score. So we're really looking at money in, money out, money borrowed, money saved, and credit score. So we'll obviously want to improve money in, money saved, and credit score. And we also want to decrease money borrowed and decrease money out. So those are kind of the metrics that we look at in the professional space.
What are some of the gaps around finances in the beauty industry that you guys are seeing?
Oh my gosh, there's so many. I would say I think 2 that come to mind right now that feel really relevant. Number 1 is, first of all, kind of when you even talk about money, right? It's just kind of almost this forbidden topic that now I think people are really starting to talk about. But in highly creative industries, in industries where you have a lot of individuals that identify as artistic, visual, intuitive, emotional, right? Some of those really, really amazing characteristics. Oftentimes, the numbers and the logistics and the financial element can be oftentimes actually feared, not even neglected, but it's neglected because it's feared, right? So we ask a question to stylists: do you have money or math anxiety? Okay, we ask that in just about every programs. What percentage of people do you think, or of stylists do you think say yes when we ask that question?
All of them.
All of them. Okay. Tina says all of them. Right now, and we ask this question ongoing, the latest survey, because it's an ongoing thing as we get more students and individuals in our program, it's 68% say yes. So 68% of beauty and wellness professionals that we've surveyed, say yes, they have money anxiety, which means or is defined as they feel a sense of fear, angst, or dread when it comes to the numbers and money, right? So what usually happens when we have fear or anxiety around something, most people avoid it, right? So we have avoidance is kind of one of the major elements. And so how that shows up, I think, is people not really embracing the numbers and recognizing that this career path, there is so much financial opportunity right in front of you. As a preneur, right, there's very few industries where you can walk into work and have, obviously some things are out of our control, but you have to a large degree can control your income, right? And that's really, really powerful. So I think there's huge missed opportunities just from an embracing sales and numbers perspective. That would be one element. I would say, from a salon owner, because I know you've got a lot of owners and leaders that listen to this, I think a big thing that we see is service providers not understanding their paycheck. And let me give you a specific example of that. The vast majority of people just not understanding their paycheck. So that leads to usually underestimating what they're making. And we have numerous examples of that. Or in more serious cases, making really false assumptions. And so let me kind of tell you a recent example, which I'm sure, Tina as an owner and Sean, you've heard, where they might think their owner is actually stealing money from their paycheck because they don't understand taxation, right? And so if we don't teach that, and if we're not learning that in school, that actually ultimately impacts the employer, right? Because they could be, so that's kind of one element. I would say another element that I would really encourage owners and leaders to recognize, especially when we're in this labor shortage and people are becoming very susceptible to booth rental or maybe leaving the industry altogether, is really being able to illustrate and speak to the difference between compensation and paycheck, right? So paycheck is one thing. Compensation is something else. And so if we can really illustrate and have owners be able to really illustrate, hey, here's your paycheck. Let's say you made $60,000, right? But here's your true compensation at working at, let's say, Erin Salon, right? Throw it out. You actually made an additional $12,000 in compensation between education, paid time off, health benefits, 401k contributions, and really being able to add that in. So instead of looking at and saying, I'm only making $60,000. If I go work somewhere down the street, I can make 62. Or if I go work solo, I'm going to keep all the money, right? Well, there's obviously huge gaps. And that's kind of what that lack of financial understanding and this fear around can create so many myths and traps that really, I think, actually impact business owners more than they really think. I'm trying to think of kind of a couple other examples. Those are kind of the two that come to mind, right? That really impact owners, is not understanding their paycheck and also not understanding the difference between compensation and paycheck.
Yeah, I think that's an area that I would love to see salon owners do more of, especially in their local schools, because they have real stories to tell the future professionals in our cosmetology schools. I think that's really imperative. But first and foremost, the salon owners need to educate themselves. And so what I find many times, and Sean does too, that most of the owners and the leaders don't have any financial literacy. So it has to start with you as the leader. That's why you need to sign up and take this course. I think it's incredible, and it's so important. In fact, Sean and I, the first thing that we do is we'll look at the salon owner's profit and loss statement. Let's look at that. And in fact, most of the salon owners, Erin, I'm sure you're not surprised, they don't even know what that is, or they don't have it. And so they can't give it to us. And so same thing as suite owners, they don't know what it is, so they can't provide it to us. You said something earlier, and I would love for you to expand. You said, I can make more money going solo. I was coaching one of my graduates, and he said to me, I don't want to work for somebody, Tina, because they're going to take 50% of what I'm earning.
Yeah.
And so how imperative is it for salon owners to do this type of training for their teams, and what should that look like?
I mean, there's kind of two components of what you just said that I want to jump on. And I want to step back and say, absolutely, it starts with the owner. And the reason why we even started going to schools and the reason why we created Money Pro was because in our work with owners and leaders, the gap of their own financial literacy is extremely, I can use a lot of different word choices here, so I want to be careful here. We have to level up their own financial literacy, right? Because as an industry, it depends on the leaders to really shape the business. And we have so much public perception issues in this industry, right? Which we can get to as a whole other thing, that it's not a legitimate career. It's not a legitimate business. So business owners need to level up their own financial acumen. And so let's start with their own financial literacy, their own financial wellness, of course, but then their financial management, right? And that moves into financial management for the business. And so I think that is a huge gap. And that's actually why we even started going to the schools, because we said, first, we got to work with leaders, but we need to make sure the next generation really understands this. And so now, with the 100 campuses or so that we're in and growing, it's really exciting to think about what will that next generation of salon owners look like? Because our job, all of our job, is to make the new generation better than ours, right? And so if we can really shape that, it's so, so exciting. And, I was just on a call with an owner that came to us, and normally I'm not on those calls. We have members of our team, but she didn't know what revenue was. She didn't know what a profit and loss statement was. She had 4 team members struggling to pay rent. And it's like, it just breaks my heart because it can be avoided, right? And it can be avoided, but you have to understand. So that's one element. And, that was kind of a segue. But the next is why it's so imperative for owners to really talk about their team members. We see that all the time, people thinking they can make more money going solo. We have actually a visual. I can send it to you maybe. We have a visual of the P&Ls of a solopreneur, an intrapreneur, and an entrepreneur, right? So money in, you can kind of look at, that if we really simplify the P&L, right? Money in versus money out on a very specific level. Intrapreneurs, their P&L is not a lot going out, right? From a business perspective, they've got everything taken care of: marketing, facility, education, products, inventory. They have all that stuff covered for them, and they don't even realize that sometimes, right? And then money in, of course, they're working in an existing business. So they don't keep all of it, right? But they don't recognize how much is going out for every dollar for salon owners. And many times they don't understand the basics of salon profitability. And this statistic was pre-COVID, but the average salon profitability in the United States was between 2 to 5%. That's average, right? Can certainly be way higher, can certainly be lower. And as you said, sometimes owners even, it depends on, so it's just going to depend on the level of acumen of the owner, the reality of the profitability. So that's intrapreneur. Solopreneur, sure, they may see more money coming in, but they don't realize that line items on what's going out oftentimes mitigates what's coming in, right? Because now they have to have rental fees for where they're going to work out of. They have to have marketing fees. They probably have to work with a CPA. They're going to have software. They're going to have to purchase their own products. Tax payments. I mean, that's a whole other subject to get into right there, right? And so they don't really recognize that the money out can actually mitigate what they might think they might be making more of, right? And then lastly, entrepreneurs, right? And entrepreneurs from a P&L standpoint have it the hardest, of course, right? Because it's always the most risk. And we define entrepreneurs as business owners with a team, with staff, right? A solopreneur is a business of one. An intrapreneur is someone working within an existing business. And so entrepreneurs, sure, they might have more money coming in, but if you look at the line items of expenses, and if you can really make that visual, it's long. So that's kind of, we like to, when we talk about how we teach this and how we approach it, you have to make it visual. We're working with a visual workforce. And so owners, it's not enough to tell them that, right? You need to show them and you need to make it visual, because usually if you think back to the math anxiety and numbers and money anxiety, they're going to have a visceral reaction. They're probably going to see nothing if you try to show them a spreadsheet or things like that. So we try to make it hyper visual so they can really understand. It's not a bad thing to be an employee. It's not a bad thing to be an entrepreneur. You can make great money as an entrepreneur. So, and I think if we can really empower owners to really speak about that and the benefits that they offer to entrepreneurs, we can kind of change the narrative, because there is such this glitz and glamour right now of the, boss babe or babette mentality, right? So it's not always glamorous being solo or an entrepreneur. So I'm sure you guys all know.
Yeah, it's incredible. And I would love for you to be able to guide salon owners right now, as well as us, how we can get a hold of that visual, because I think this is the answer right here, is sharing this with your team, educating your team.
I wonder, can we put a PDF in the show notes? Is that possible?
Yes.
Yeah, let me send you a PDF.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
okay, perfect.
We'll put it in the show notes. Yeah.
Thank
Perfect.
you so much.
Of course. Of course.
You kind of started a little bit to talk about it, but talk a little bit about how your modules are set up. So for those that are listening to this, because you talked about your 5 things, which are phenomenal, but your modules are just amazing. So talk a little bit about how that comes into play.
Yeah, so we have the program, and the school and the individual program is built kind of on the same structure. So we've got 8 core modules of the program. And what we did, and we've been doing education and, coaching for years. We've been doing digital education, since I don't even know what, 2009 or, before it was like everybody's doing it. And digital education can always be a bit challenging, right? Because it's like, it's like going to college online, right? You kind of have to have a little bit of accountability. So for schools, it's part of their tuition and they learn it in an environment. So that's kind of one element. But for the professionals, what we've done is we have kind of structured it in a way that salons can really implement it in numerous ways. Of course, the modules are hosted digitally, but there's so many different tools to bring it to life. And we have weekend sessions where they can tune in. So there's a variety of ways that they consume the content. But as far as the modules go, there's 8 core modules. Within each of those modules, there's 5 distinct lessons. Okay, so we're looking at a total of 40 money-related lessons that are what we believe to be the most important for beauty and wellness professionals as entrepreneurs. That's really what the program is dedicated to. It's a benefit that salon and spa employers can offer their staff. And it's really the most important money topics that we believe they need to understand. So module 1 is all about money mindset, right? We're not going to start the first module with taxes. That would be, shutting people down right at hello, right? So money mindset is really examining your own money story and really identifying your money why. So really kind of getting people into the spirit to help them, if they do have a super negative money story, to be empowered to change that. Module 2 is about money in, right? What we talked about at the start of this, how they can understand how they can actually make money as an entrepreneur and drive sales. And then also the differences in what it means to be an entrepreneur and also understanding compensation versus paycheck. Module 3 is all about money out. So that's expenses. How much should they be paying on rent? How much should they be paying on car payments? So a little bit of those personal related expenses. But also we talk about the different currencies in life, we call them ATM, attention, time, and money, and really how you spend attention and time can actually contribute to where your money goes, right? And how much you make of it and where it goes. So really kind of some of that element in money out. And we also talk about the basics of a profit and loss statement. And our goal for that is to really help service providers and stylists have more empathy for owners to really understand the money in versus money out for a business owner, because there's a lot, and so making sure that we can really simplify that. Module 4, money borrowed, that's all about debt. So that's going to be very personal, right? If somebody doesn't have debt, it might not be relevant to them. If somebody does, it's really how to minimize or eliminate specifically bad debt, So we're talking credit card payments, high interest related loans, etc. Module 5 is about money saved. So that's my favorite because I believe there's so much opportunity there, but that's really simplifying investing, right? Simplifying investing and empowering people to start early and sharing how to make it automatic, baseline level items to make sure that people are prepared, once they want to stop working, right? So they can really have a long and prosperous career doing their craft, but be prepared financially once it's time to stop, right? Module 6 is about taxes. So that's where we have a lesson literally called Understanding Your Paycheck. So what it means, what taxes mean, why we pay them, how much people pay on average in taxes, and different types of tax truths. Module 7 is building a plan for your money. And I think that's where it's exciting, right? We had an example of someone whose dream was just to travel and really being able to connect back to your money why and being able to plan accordingly for your own financial dreams. And so how a salon owner was able to help one of her team members achieve her financial why and build a plan for it. And then lastly, it really ties it all together with money success, which just recognizes the importance of, we're not trying to make anyone accountants. We're trying to make sure that they have baseline, what we believe to be the most important things for us as humans in a workforce that relies on money as the key form of currency to understand, and then making sure they can understand how to build a financial team and the right different titles that they can get support for. So hopefully that wasn't too in the weeds, but a very high level overview. And so all of those lessons, each of those 5 lessons within each of those 8 modules have discussion questions, videos, quizzes, PDFs, activities to really bring it to life. And then of course, our team works with you on how to roll it out and kind of bring it to life into the business every day.
I think that's my favorite part, is that the team works with us to show us how to roll it out, which I think is so important, especially as a leader, what would make the most sense as well. And my favorite thing when I met you, Erin, is when you taught Paul Mitchell school owners about your compensation study that you did. And it resonated with me because my husband just retired from the law practice. And so everything that you're talking about, I'm like, that's a true story. I can attest to her story because it's my story too. And so can you kind of share about your compensation study and a little bit about what you said so that salon leaders and stylists can hear?
Absolutely. I did not know that your husband was a lawyer. So that's you probably totally connect with that. And so just to kind of step back, I think one of the things that we're always trying to do, and I know you guys are trying to do it with Next Level Salon Leadership, is we're trying to elevate this industry, the business acumen, the financial opportunities, the financial wellness, and also public related perception of this industry, because there's some real challenges. And without going too political, there's some legislation that is very scary for school owners that I'm sure as a school owner, you guys are quite familiar with. And if you're not, and if you're listening to this podcast, I want you to understand, if you're a salon owner, this legislation and what the risk that it poses to schools actually will really, really challenge the entire scope of this industry, because we need candidates and we need schools to be producing candidates. And a lot of it boils down to this lack of data, particularly on earnings, on what someone can make as a service provider. So a cosmetologist, nail professional, barber, esthetician, massage therapist, etc. Particularly though, the data is less when it comes to cosmetologists. So for hairdressers. And so what we started to do as a lot of this legislation was coming into effect, we were having our own conversations about really trying to elevate the understanding of compensation and hours worked in professional beauty, right? So on average, what does an average hairdresser make in the United States and how many hours do they work, right? And the interesting thing is, for as long as this industry has been around, there is no data, okay? The only data you can find around that, which seems pretty basic, right? You would think the only data is if you go online and look at how much does a hairdresser make in the United States? You're going to see salary.com, Glassdoor, and the US Bureau of Labor Statistics. And let me tell you, the numbers are not compelling, okay? They're not. And so when we also look at the challenge of recruitment and retention in this industry, when the next generation is looking for prospective careers and they say, I really love, creativity and doing hair, and they go online and look, I can't make a good living, right? Somehow we need to change that. And we recognize that that might not be the full picture. And so here's one element of this. This industry is very fragmented, as we know, right? You have people working from suites, you have people working for existing salons, you have people working out of their house. So that creates, from a data collection standpoint, major challenges, right? And so all of that data is kind of blended together. And if you're a lawyer, Tina, working from your home, who knows how many hours you're working versus a lawyer working at a top prestigious law firm, the earnings are going to be quite different, right? And so it's not an apples to apples comparison. So what we said was, okay, there's no way we can, try to paint a different picture with looking at all of these different elements right away. So we started off to say, okay, let's start the process of data collection, because frankly, no one else was doing it. So what we did in May was we did a very basic preliminary study. Let's call it kind of a beta test group. And what we did was we took the W-2s from 51 salon companies across 108 salon locations. We had them submit anonymously their team members' W-2s. So we could say, and that is the closest level to accuracy that we can see when we try to compare with, let's say, the US Bureau of Labor Statistics, right? W-2s. So we took that data of about 1,200, I think it was just slightly over 1,200 hairdressers working in W-2 salons. And we found some very, very interesting findings from that group. We found that the average salary was almost double than what's being reported by the US Bureau of Labor Statistics, Glassdoor and salary.com. We found it was over 53,000 on average. Okay, but here's the kicker. The average hours worked was 27 hours per week. So I really want to kind of step back. And when we look at other industries, and especially in an industry where you have so many female, such a large population of females, and especially in their child rearing years too, right? There is a tremendous amount of flexibility that making $53,000, only working 27 hours a week, can provide. There's not a lot of other career paths. So that was that beta group. We're now in phase 2 of the study. So I'm not sure when this podcast will be posted, but if you have seen anything out to participate and you are a salon owner, we are trying to increase this sample size tremendously. So please participate in that, where we're going to get that beta group up to closer to 7,500, 10,000, and hope to continue to build on this and do some trend analysis. But when we look at those numbers, okay, and there's other findings that we found, 27 hours a week on average, over $53,000 a year, okay, from that beta group. When we look at that to other professions, and when I shared that story, that Tina was referring to, I did a presentation for Paul Mitchell School's Summit, and I did some anecdotal references, right? And so these stories are anecdotal, but if you look at other high earning careers, and particularly high earning careers that have, let's say, very positive public reception too, right? Doctors and lawyers, right? Those are kind of two other careers that, if somebody's a doctor or a lawyer, there's a nobility and there's a kind of prestige, I think, that people think for whatever reason that is, right? Tina, you probably know, being married to a lawyer, me being engaged to a physician, it's really not that glamorous, right? But what we looked at was just some anecdotal examples of law. So for example, I shared a real story of someone named Chloe, happens to be a very close friend of mine. Her total years in education is 7. The total cost of her education was $200,000 a year. Her average hours worked per week is 60. Her starting salary after graduating law school was $40,000 with no benefits. Okay, we break that down. Her hourly wage is about $13. One thing that I didn't tell you, that study found an hourly wage of over $37 for hairdressers. Okay, so there's one example. And then I gave the example of my fiance and my partner in life. And the total years of education with $0 in income for him is 8. The total cost of his education was $350,000. We're still in the training process. The total years in training to date is 13. Total hours worked per week is 80. And when I asked him his hourly wage, I can say this because, and so these are anecdotal examples, right? And we have a team of data analysts that are doing the study, not me, right? I'm just kind of the messenger and really sharing the findings. But when I asked for his hourly wage, he said he would not let me share it. He said, I'd prefer not to share because it's embarrassingly low, right? So those are an examples. And then I kind of contrasted it with an example of someone in beauty whose name is Nikki. Total years of her education was a year. Total cost of her education is less than $20,000. Her total salary, I believe this was last year, was $94,000 after 6 years in the industry. And that was also with her taking 10 weeks off in a year, because there were some circumstances that happened. This salon happened to be in California, which got hit quite hard with COVID, if you recall. Her hourly wage is $68, and she works on average 32 hours a week, right? So we need to somehow be able to, and these stories, like you guys, I can see you smiling. For those of you either listening or smiling, we all intuitively understand this, right? But we're not the ones that need to understand this. It's service providers, prospective students, people that are making public policy decisions need to understand the validity and the possibility of this career. And that's really what we're trying to do with this study. So, and what we've done now with that, since that beta group, which you can read about it, and hopefully in the show notes, I can give you guys this link. You can read about what we're doing. We've moved this to an entire data institute within our company. We've aligned with professors from UCLA, which actually Paul Mitchell, Kristen, for those of you who know Kristen, connected with us with, who are so passionate about this industry. So we've aligned with PhDs from UCLA, another PhD from Cal Poly, that are really helping us strengthen this study. Because like I said, I'm not a data professional. That's why we hired experts to do this, to really make sure this study can be bulletproof and we can utilize it to help really tell a different point of reference on earnings in pro beauty. Again, we're starting with one segment. W-2 employees, but we'll continue in future years to expand the scope of study so we can really, really continue to elevate the industry. Sorry, sometimes I go on like a soapbox because I'm so passionate about this. So I'll pause and let you guys speak.
One thing that I will say as somebody who our 3 salons participated in this round of surveys, and it's very
thank you. I want to give you a round of applause. Thank you so much for that. We need people like you. Thank you.
It was very quick. It was very easy, and at the end, you provide the summary right there. Like if you would have asked me before I took the survey what the hourly average rate is in the salon, I wouldn't have had a clue. However, with utilizing your data sheet, we were able to find out instantly what the hourly rate is for our salon based on how many stylists we have, and it's awesome as a factual point to talk to stylists that are coming in, because you can show them that this is potentially the hourly average rate that you could have. So thank you for that survey. I just wanted to encourage everybody to go out and participate for sure. So how do people get in touch with you? How do people sign up? I know that you guys are wonderful. When you inquire, you instantly have people that reach out and let's get on a call, let's talk. So how do they take those next steps?
I think the easiest thing, honestly, would just go to qnityinc.com. So that's spelling.
It's amazing.
QNITYINC.com. And in the far upper right-hand corner, there's a little button that says book a demo. I assure you, we are not an aggressive sale. We want people who want to just learn more. And so we'll show you totally no obligation, the program, and learn a little bit more about your business. And we're a very consultative partner when we work with our accounts. So you can just book a demo. A member of our team will schedule time with you and take a look at how this can benefit your business. So thank you guys so much. And we have numerous different programs, but we're really, really excited about Money Pro because there really is no other program like this in the beauty industry. Lots of other corporations have really started to see the benefit of financial wellness training and how it impacts retention impacts the bottom line, increases 401k contributions, increases longevity and retention for employers when their team experiences greater financial wellness. So our hope is that it can really, really help owners continue to elevate and provide a competitive edge.
I love it.
Thank you, Erin. So much.
Thank you so much for having me. Such a pleasure. And thank you for all the amazing work that you guys are doing.
Take
Thank
care,
you, everybody.
Erin.
Have a great day.